Far Cry Primal is a game about hitting things with sticks. If you've played recent Far Cry games, the general gameplay has a couple of new bells and whistles, but in terms of mechanics, it's a pretty iterative sequel. You talk to people who want you to hit things with sticks, then you hit them with sticks. Your stick gets bigger, and the things get tougher, but ultimately, it's pretty much the same Far Cry that you're used to. However, the story here is radically different from what we've seen in previous Far Cry games. This ain't no tourist island, this is straight up Stone Age. It commits super hard to this setting, and as a result, it gets a story that is super interesting in its presentation and theme, even if the plot itself is kinda weak. But enough plotting about. How does Far Cry Primal do its thing? Far Cry Primal is drenched in theme. The setting, characters, activities, and game mechanics all feed back into this theme, fortifying it and making it totally envelop the game. So yes, this is a game about being a caveman. The people you meet are delightfully primitive, and you get to explore a space that rarely appears in video games. Your tribe's people are raw, unpredictable, and passionate in ways that only a society without established expectations can be. The language spoken by the characters pays massive dividends for establishing the atmosphere. The moment I hopped into the game and someone looked at me and said, I was sold. Then you sneak through a herd of mammoths, and then you get shit on by a saber-toothed tiger, and I'm thinking, this is amazing! And it maintains that atmosphere for the whole game. The way the characters behave, the tribal skirmishes you come across, even collecting the bloody resources is all injected with theme to the eyeballs. When you're grabbing plants and rocks, your character doesn't know what this stuff is. It's just green leaf and red leaf or black rock. The lack of understanding displayed here is a small but integral part of what makes the theme in this game so damn rich. As a bonus, Far Cry's crafting system finally makes sense. In previous games I was always wondering why Jason Brody has to collect 5 rhino asses to make a new wallet when he'd probably be much better served by just ordering one on eBay. But here, you have no option but to make these things yourself. If you want a bigger bag, you best go get those rhino asses, son. The gameplay reinforces the theme rather than clashing with it, and the result is a world that you can lose yourself in for hours. Even just walking around the world puts you in the mentality of being a hunter, or prey. I tried not to use the supervision or the caveman magic unless absolutely necessary, so this led to me sneaking through the jungle, peering through the underbrush to work out if that spot of movement between the leaves was a delicious mountain goat or a jaguar that would kick my shit in. At least, I did it for a couple of hours until I got a pet mountain lion, and suddenly all those hungry packs of wolves had somewhere else they urgently needed to be. As you progress, the feeling of being a hunter fades away as the animals become less threatening and the reasons to hunt them less relevant. You eventually become the apex predator and run through stampeding herds of angry mammoths without a care in the world. Which isn't really a bad thing since it allows you to get on with the game after you've had your fill of playing Splinter Cell Bunga Theory. But the level of detail, the commitment to the theme, had me totally engrossed. It's so good. It's so good.
Uapadas charshwar. Ha kapalpur. Galaita.
For all the amazing things that theme does for the game, the plot fails to really capitalize on them. Whenever you start the game, you get a little "last time on Far Cry" spiel. It's pretty telling that for the bulk of my playthrough, I was looking at the exact same intro, because as far as the plot is concerned, basically nothing happens for most of the game. The game starts with you looking for your lost Wenja bros, and then you find them. You see there's two rival tribes that have set up shop, and you'd rather they didn't. So you gather a selection of Wenja bros who actually are really well characterized, and most of their missions have to do with messing up one of the other two tribes. These missions don't actually really inform you that much about the overall conflict or the plot in general. They mostly tell you about the characters in your tribe. So by the end of the game you have a really good idea of the people around you, but the whole clan war thing has really just been an exercise in getting to know the people in your tribe rather than, you know, fighting a war. You do get some insight into the other tribes when the witch doctor Tensai feeds you some blood juice, and the visions you get explore the mythology and motivations of the other tribes. However, outside of one attack on your village, the other tribes never really take action, you know, random overworld encounters notwithstanding. The player sets the pace for the story, and this turns the game into just chipping away at these rival tribes until there's really nothing left, and then yay, you win, I guess. In the end, the player gets the least interesting story out of any character in the game, since it's mainly just a chain of stabbing cavemen and petting kitties. But the characters you meet get some pretty good stories of their own. Every character you meet in the game makes a huge impression. Each one of them is swiftly and powerfully established. And that they made a bunch of cavemen so distinct from one another is super impressive. The prehistoric setting means that there are no social codes of conduct in place, so every one of these characters is super honest and genuine, even if they're kinda dicks. Some of the characters even get full character arcs. Most of the for real story of the game is contained to them trying to accomplish their goals, whether it be pushing the frontiers of caveman science or making sure that the Wenja have a worthy hunter leading them. Some of them disobey your wishes, following their own causes rather than yours. Some of them end up going their own way, and when that happened, I did get genuinely sad. These are well-defined characters, and saying goodbye to them was hard. Though all of the characters are cool and worthy of discussion, I'm gonna focus on two of them, Daha and Roshani. Both of these are warriors that you capture from the rival tribes, the cannibalistic and Neanderthal-like Udam, and the technology superior Izila. They start as your prisoners, but even if that changes, they remain the other, which is most clearly portrayed when you upgrade their huts. Normally, upgrading a hut is something that everyone gets behind and everyone has a good time, but when you upgrade Da's hut, you get this instead. Just a lonely cave bro being watched by a curious child. That's all you need to establish his role in the tribe. Even if he helps you, and even if you as a player character get to know him, he is forever an outsider to the Wenja. Roshani is slightly more accepted, but for him it's the way he talks that really sets him apart. Everyone in the game is basically speaking the same made-up language, but Roshani speaks with a different accent. Otherwise, he's pretty similar to the Wenja, but that accent is enough to set him apart from everyone else. But the most important aspect of these characters is that both of them act as lenses into the cultures and the people of the rival tribes, which is super valuable, because otherwise most of your interaction with them is through the end of a club. You learn that far from being the monsters that some of your tribe are convinced they are, these tribes have their own trials, troubles, and reasons for coming here. And although your Wenja tribe often comes across as noble savages thanks to the respect for nature and whatnot, you learn that a lot of the time you're just as bad as them. It highlights the fact that there's actually no good guys here, just three cultures with conflicting goals. By the end of it, the Udam actually become pretty sympathetic when you learn what the actual situation of their tribe is. Though, you know, the Izila basically remain enslaving assholes for the whole game. Just, you know, more nuanced enslaving assholes. Yeah. Far Cry Primal certainly has its share of issues in the story department, but I'm not going to deny its achievements. This is the most caveman-y game I have ever played, and a lot of that is thanks to the game having a very tight focus on theme. I found the setting and the theme super enjoyable, and even if the plot itself just meanders along for the most part, the fantasy it created of being this awesome prehistoric hunter was so rich that it was enough to carry me to the end of the game, which is more than I can say for any of the other Far Cry games. Even if it's not perfect, there's a lot to like and a lot to learn from Far Cry Primal in how it engages the player and immerses them in this cohesive and richly detailed setting. Well, you know, caveman magic and orbital owl strikes notwithstanding.